Welcome back to the channel, Hoops fans. Today, we are diving deep into a playoff slate that had absolutely everything: monumental collapses, grueling defensive slugfests, and a close-out game that completely reshaped the narrative of the Western Conference playoffs. In this video, we are going to break down the Los Angeles Lakers' commanding Game 6 victory over the Houston Rockets, a win that saved them from a historic collapse. We will look at the tactical masterclass from Coach J.J. Redick, the defensive adjustments that shut down Alperen Sengun, and the ultimate sign of disrespect that ended Houston's season. Then, we will pivot to the massive off-season questions looming over the Rockets franchise. Finally, we will briefly touch on the absolute disaster class by the Orlando Magic and preview the gritty Game 7 coming up between the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Grab a snack, hit that like button, and let's get right into the film room, the context. Dodging a historic collapse, let's set the stage for what was easily one of the most pressure-filled games of the season. The Los Angeles Lakers had completely defied expectations early in this series, building a commanding 3-0 lead. At that point, everybody thought an easy ticket to the second round was secured. However, the script flipped dramatically. The Lakers dropped 2 straight games, making the series 3-2. And suddenly, they found themselves staring down a high-pressure Game 6 on the road in Houston. The anxiety for Lakers Nation was at an all-time high because they could no longer afford to be relaxed. Adding to the drama, the Rockets were still without their superstar. Kevin Durant was ruled out again due to injury. For the Lakers, they welcomed Austin Reaves back into the starting lineup. Despite his return, the Lakers had lost the previous game and were arguably coming into Game 6 with worse momentum than the hometown Rockets. The pressure was entirely on Los Angeles to prove they weren't about to choke away a 3-0 series lead. First quarter breakdown. Weathering the early storm right from the opening tip, the Rockets had a clear game plan: attack the returning Austin Reaves. Houston aggressively targeted Reaves defensively, forcing him into matchups with Amen Thompson right away. This was a major concern for the Lakers when they decided to start Reaves, and it was exactly the kind of isolation basketball the home team wanted to establish early on. However, the Lakers did not let this early pressure break them. Houston's offense, which has been a persistent issue in the half-court, immediately hit a wall. The Rockets suffered from a terrible cold streak from beyond the three-point arc. Because of this brutal three-point shooting slump, the Rockets could not seize control of the game despite their solid initial game plan. Meanwhile, the Lakers countered with pace and vision. LeBron James set the tone early by firing a bullet pass to Rui Hachimura, who threw down a fast break dunk. This play was incredibly important because it showed that the Lakers were going to win the energy battle against a Houston team that desperately needed to outwork them. Thanks to Houston's offensive struggles and Los Angeles's early transition pushes, the Lakers easily flipped the score and took the lead. Rui Hachimura was an absolute revelation from the perimeter, finding his outside shooting touch early. Because of Hachimura's hot hand, the Lakers were able to secure the lead in a relatively low-scoring first quarter. Second quarter, the king awakens and the bench steps up. If the first quarter was about weathering the storm, the second quarter was about the Lakers waking up from their slumber. In Game 5, the Lakers looked like they were walking through molasses. In Game 6, however, they got out in transition and ran significantly more often. They dialed up their ball pressure. The ball was zipping around the perimeter with drive and kick actions at a much higher frequency. The Rockets' offense remained incredibly stagnant in the second quarter. Rookie guard Reed Sheppard had a historically bad shooting night, and his struggles were glaringly obvious as the quarter progressed. To put his performance in perspective, Sheppard finished this game shooting an abysmal 4 for 19 from the field, With Houston failing to capitalize on their home court advantage, LeBron James took absolute control. After a quiet first quarter, LeBron found his rhythm, sinking a beautiful fadeaway jumper. He then followed that up with a devastating step-back three-pointer, completely calibrating his offensive arsenal. LeBron's conditioning and energy looked vastly superior compared to his recent performances. LeBron then decided to go matchup hunting. He isolated against the much younger Tari Eason, successfully scoring and extending the Lakers' lead into double digits. While LeBron orchestrated the offense, the Lakers' defense was locked in, anchored by the relentless intensity of Marcus Smart. The Lakers were suffocating the Rockets, and even unexpected role players joined the party. Jake LaRavia capitalized on a missed Houston three-pointer, leaking out for a fast break dunk. LaRavia didn't just score, he also showcased incredibly tenacious defense, perfectly executing his role. Then, the veteran Anthony Davis joined the transition track meet. AD hit a running layup that completely defied his age, leaving the younger Houston players looking absolutely bewildered. At this point, the entire Houston roster experienced a collective shooting malfunction. The Lakers' lead swelled to nearly 20 points, making it seem like this crucial Game 6 was going to end in an anticlimactic blowout. Houston's brief sign of life, just as the game felt over. Fatigue seemed to catch up with Los Angeles. Anthony Davis committed a turnover, and the Rockets finally tapped into their biggest strength, second chance points. Houston managed to claw back, cutting into the massive deficit. They went back to their initial strategy of attacking Austin Reeves on defense, and for a fleeting moment, they pushed the margin to a single digit. The Rockets were finally dragging the Lakers into the grinding defensive battle they wanted. But Austin Reeves stepped up. Despite being the target on defense, Reeves managed to beat Alperen Sengun off the dribble with a quick step, ensuring he contributed on the offensive end. Marcus Smart, who had a rough Game 5, completely redeemed himself by taking a massive charge on Sengun. This defensive play by Smart halted Houston's momentum dead in its tracks. To close out the half, the Lakers broke the defensive gridlock. Houston's three-point shooting continued to be an absolute disaster, preventing them from sustaining any real offensive flow. In the closing moments of the second quarter, both Rui Hachimura and LeBron James drilled clutch three-pointers. Because of this late surge, the Lakers headed into the locker room with a very comfortable 8-point advantage. For a road closeout game, the Lakers could not have asked for a better first half. Tactical deep dive, solving the Alperen Sengun puzzle. Before we move to the second half, we have to talk about the tactical adjustments made by J.J. Redick and the Lakers coaching staff. The key to this game was how they defended Alperen Sengun. In the previous game, the Lakers' defensive game plan was a total disaster. They aggressively double-teamed Sengun, and it completely backfired. They gave up incredibly easy baskets as a direct result of those double teams. In Game 6, the Lakers completely scrapped that strategy. Defensively, they drastically reduced the number of double teams they sent at Sengun. When they did double him, the timing was completely different. For the vast majority of the game, the Lakers simply dared Sengun to beat them one-on-one. Coach Redick opted to switch Rui Hachimura onto him, or he would leave Jackson Hayes and DeAndre Ayton on an island to guard Sengun straight up. The directive was clear: do not bring an extra defender. By refusing to send a double team like they did in Game 5, the Lakers effectively cut off all the passing lanes that Sengun usually exploits to generate offense for his teammates. The rotation discipline behind this scheme was light years better than it was in Game 5. Furthermore, the Lakers were completely fine with the perimeter mismatches this created. If DeAndre Ayton had to switch onto Reed Shepherd, or if Jackson Hayes ended up guarding Amen Thompson on the perimeter, the Lakers lived with it. The result: The Rockets simply could not get downhill and penetrate the paint. The second half dominance and disrespect coming out of the locker room. Alperen Sengun tried to spark a Houston comeback by hitting a fadeaway jumper. However, the Lakers maintained firm control. Austin Reeves, despite having an up-and-down night, chipped in with a timely layup. DeAndre Ayton played excellent individual defense on Sengun and even managed to secure an and-one play on the offensive end. Through the early stages of the third quarter, the Lakers fiercely protected a lead of 15 points or more. Houston's season was rapidly slipping away. Not only was their three-point shooting non-existent, but they also failed to score in the paint, an area that is usually a major strength for them. With their interior scoring neutralized, the point differential only continued to expand. LeBron James methodically marched to the free throw line, securing easy points. Whenever the Rockets showed any signs of life, Rui Hachimura delivered a dagger from the perimeter. Before the Rockets knew what hit them, they were staring down a massive 5-point deficit. Houston's desperation and Smart's masterclass desperate times call for desperate measures, facing an atrocious offensive night. Houston tried to turn the game into a physical brawl. They attempted to draw fouls early in the quarter, hoping to scrape together points from the free throw line since their jump shots were clanking off the rim. Marcus Smart quickly shut down that strategy. Smart delivered a jaw-dropping block that completely energized the Lakers. Following the block, Austin Reeves stepped up. Reeves had been struggling with his three-point shot, which was a real issue, but he adapted brilliantly. Reeves attacked the basket with back-to-back drives, scoring effectively and completely collapsing Houston's defense. With LeBron resting on the bench, it was vital that Reeves took charge of the offense, and he delivered. The Lakers absolutely dominated both ends of the floor. Marcus Smart was putting on a clinic, showing exactly why he is a former Defensive Player of the Year. By the fourth quarter, Rui Hachimura remained incredibly hot, becoming the second leading scorer for the Lakers. Meanwhile, Houston's three-point shooting was so remarkably bad that it honestly felt like Kevin Durant's infamous burner accounts were right all along. The Rockets were even losing the rebounding battle, a category they usually dominate, which stripped away any remaining hope of a miraculous comeback. As the series dragged on, fatigue naturally set in for the road team. The Lakers' offense started to look a bit sluggish, but their key players had already built an insurmountable cushion. They gave Houston absolutely no room to breathe. Over on the bench, an injured Kevin Durant watched with a very complicated expression as the clock ticked down on the Rockets' season. There was a brief moment of panic when Austin Reeves suffered an apparent lower body injury, which looked quite scary at first. Fortunately, after heading to the bench, it appeared that the injury wasn't serious and wouldn't have lingering effects. LeBron James, who looked exhausted for stretches, dug deep and converted a tough driving layup. On the very next possession, Alperen Sengun committed a back-breaking, careless turnover. The writing was on the wall. Marcus Smart, who had focused primarily on defense all night, suddenly caught fire and drained back-to-back three-pointers, effectively throwing a victory parade right there on the court. The ultimate disrespect enter Bronny. Then came the dagger that will be talked about all offseason. LeBron James threw a picture-perfect alley-oop to Jackson Hayes, officially punching the Lakers' ticket to the second round. With the victory fully secured, Coach J.J. Redick decided to administer the ultimate level of humiliation to the Houston Rockets. Redick pulled his starters and subbed in Bronny James. Nobody expected Bronny to see the floor when this game tipped off. Putting him in was a profound statement of disrespect, completely embarrassing the Rockets on their home floor. Forced to accept their fate, Houston had no choice but to wave the white flag and empty their own bench. despite fighting back from a 3-0 deficit to force a Game 6. The Rockets' season ended in an incredibly disappointing garbage-time blowout at home. You really have to wonder what Kevin Durant is thinking after watching that massacre. As for the Lakers, a team that was hearing whispers of a reverse sweep just days ago, they walked into a hostile environment and closed out the series with zero stress. The game was essentially decided by halftime. LeBron James, despite a heavy physical burden, orchestrated the critical early second-quarter run, finishing with 28 points and 8 assists, reminding everyone exactly how he dictates playoff basketball. The scoring balance from Hachimura and Reeves, combined with Marcus Smart's legendary defense, created a perfect storm. The Lakers will now advance to the second round to face the Oklahoma City Thunder, with Luka Doncic heavily expected to remain sidelined. There is a distinct talent gap, but as fans, we are hoping for an incredibly entertaining series. The Lakers avoided the disaster. No Luka, and mostly no Austin Reeves, early in the series, no problem. Houston's off-season of chaos now. We have to talk about the Houston Rockets. After a defeat like that, they are entering an off-season filled with massive, franchise-altering questions. The Kevin Durant dilemma. The entire off-season hinges on one simple question. Does Kevin Durant actually want to stay in Houston? If KD decides he wants to remain a Rocket, the front office has a clear path. They will likely welcome back Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams. They might look into the trade market to swap Dorian Finney-Smith for a player who fits a similar archetype, especially if they lose confidence in his jump shot returning next season. If KD stays, they are essentially running it back with this core, and they will take a hard look at Ime Udoka's performance as head coach. But they absolutely must fix their half-court offense. The offensive system cannot simply devolve into Kevin Durant dribbling the air out of the ball and running straight into double teams at the top of the key. Bringing Fred VanVleet back into the fold is the primary hope for resolving those offensive stagnation issues. The youth movement, Amen, Sengun, and Shepherd, beyond the veterans. Houston desperately needs massive developmental leaps from their young core. Let's start with Amen Thompson. At this point, nobody should hold out hope that he is suddenly going to develop a reliable three-point shot. The more realistic developmental goal is for Amen to become an absolute master of the 1-0-foot jump shot. During the regular season, Amen shot 44% on about 4 attempts per game in the paint, excluding shots right at the rim. In the playoffs, that number dipped slightly to 41% on 5 attempts per game. He is capable of making those shots, but he needs to unlock another tier of efficiency. He also needs to significantly improve his post-up game and his ability to back down defenders. Amen is due for a contract extension soon. The Rockets successfully negotiated extensions for Sengun, Jalen Green, and Jabari Smith, so we will see how the front office handles Amen's numbers. For Alperen Sengun, the mandate is simple. He has to develop a jump shot from anywhere on the floor. If he can't stretch the floor, he needs to become historically elite at his signature moves, the hook shots, the floaters, and the turnaround jumpers. Furthermore, Sengun needs to figure out how to significantly increase his trips to the free throw line. Then there is Reed Shepherd. Shepherd logged 26 minutes per game during the regular season, and his workload increased to 31 minutes per game in the playoffs. Unfortunately, he was outright bad in the postseason, going 19 inches. An elimination game is brutal. Year 3 is going to be incredibly revealing for Shepherd. We will find out exactly what the franchise thinks of him, based on whether his minutes and usage rates stay flat or increase. The trade rumors, if Kevin Durant wants out, or if the Rockets decide to blow it up, things will get crazy. If they want to hunt for a superstar like Giannis Antetokounmpo, they will have to empty the war chest. The Milwaukee Bucks will have a mountain of offers if Giannis becomes available. So there is no telling who will win that bidding war. To make a trade like that happen, Houston would have to mortgage their draft picks and trade away real rotational players, much like they did when trading the 10th overall pick. A trade package would undoubtedly include flawed but talented players like Jalen Green, who struggles with consistency, and Dillon Brooks, who has a habit of taking terrible shots. Houston has to decide on their identity. Are they willing to coast on potential, waiting for the right moment to strike a trade for a superstar? Or do they pivot aggressively right now,